Hey guys, Sam here with It's a Wildlife. We've got a video for you today to show you how to fix these Tri-Tronics batteries. These are EXP batteries. There's literally thousands of them out there. There's no way to buy replacement batteries. My friend and I, we have dogs together. Both of us bought our systems back in 2010, 2011. And the batteries are going bad now. So they won't hold a charge. You can't charge them back up. The controller will still beat these, but that's it. So a few weeks ago, we cut one apart, and this is the one we fixed. And I'm going to show you the old batteries out of them. I have a compartment here, and so I'm going to show you what's actually inside of these. This is a little challenging for most people. You may have a buddy that's willing to take on the challenge. But we checked on a replacement, and a replacement that Garmin, of course, bought out Tri-Tronics. To buy new collars, they roughly $300 a piece. So we figured if we could change the batteries out in these and get a year or two out of them, it was well worth the money. To get these fixed is about $16. That's not too bad. So anyway, this was an old battery. This is what we started with. If you can see inside of this battery, this is the bottom of it. These are your electrodes that hook to the top of the battery. This is your motherboard here. This is one of the connections on this side. And these are actually the batteries that came out of this controller. They sit in there like this. And these little silver leads is what attaches to the motherboard. Now what we're doing with this, we're cutting the tops out of these and carrying them to Interstate Batteries or Batteries Plus or anybody who can make these connections. They have some specialized tools to get inside and behind these batteries to actually make the connection to this motherboard. I could probably make the connection, but they have some very unique equipment to get in there, and I'm not so sure if I'm skilled enough to do that. So this was the first one we sacrificed. We didn't know how to cut it apart to get to these batteries, so we cut the side out and we cut the top out of it. So cutting the top out of it is a way to access this panel. These are the new batteries that's going to go inside. We're going to also change out the batteries on the controller. These can be done at any Battery Plus. These guys can do that very quickly. I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to start with this because this is actually the easiest thing to change batteries. So this one's been working fairly good. A friend of mine's, his was getting weak, wasn't sending out a signal. So basically, let me find my glasses here. So basically there's two screws on the bottom that you can see. We're going to remove these two screws, and you can do a close-up on this. Now there's a seal that flows around the bottom of this battery. We want to make sure we keep that fairly intact. Now you may have to take a small screwdriver and pry here and pry there. I did this one. I've already taken this apart, but just for demonstration. That is the bottom. Around here is the seal. And you want to keep that. You don't want to break this seal. This is what that's the watertight seal here. So you want to be sure this will be kind of sticky along the back side of this. So you want to keep that seal if all possible. If not, you can take a little silicone and maybe run a little bead around, but that's fairly messy. And all that happens is this comes out. It's a 4 battery pack. And the battery place will rebuild you a pack. You carry them this pack. I'm planning on carrying them the whole controller. I'm going to carry the controller like this because it's really easy to access. These batteries are actually different. I'm going to actually cut the top out of the battery, and I'm going to carry it to them, and I'm going to let them take the old battery pack out. because I don't know where these little electrodes actually go, and I don't want to break them, and they may need to attach back to them. That's what I'm going to do. You may be able to do something different. So that's the controller for the most part. I'm going to set this to the side. So let's do a little close-up of this. I'm going to point out something. You tell me when you're ready. So, of course, I've put this battery back together, and you can see it's not really pretty. I used some good quality polyurethane, laid a bead of caulk around the inside, set this portion back down inside of that, made sure it was nice and tight, and then I put a bead of caulking around the outside of it to make a watertight seal. This battery, I've used it on 4 hunting trips so far. We actually just got back from South Carolina. The dogs were in a lot of water. It seemed to hold up fine. You have another method of sealing this. I'm not saying that there's just one way to do it, but this needs to be watertight because you need to keep the water out of this motherboard here. So I'm going to cut one apart and show you how I cut it apart, show you what's in it, and then we're going to do a follow-up video on some clips and show you what it looks like, and I'm going to seal it back. Hopefully we'll get these back by Wednesday. And when I used polyurethane on this, it took about 3 days for it to set up really good. So the tools that I use to cut it out is a Dremel tool. You can get these at Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot. You may even already have one at home. So the first time I tried to cut it, I used this type of Dremel tool wheel. This is just an all-purpose wheel. It didn't do a good job. What it actually did, you can see, it started to melt the plastic. And as it cut along, it would melt the plastic, and because it got it so hot, it would melt back. So that method did not work. So I moved on to this wheel here. This is a little cutting wheel. I think it's used for wood and for carving. I went and purchased this wheel. It cuts out about 1/8 of an inch wide, a little wider than I really want it to cut out. But it seemed to work okay. I looked on Amazon. They actually have a little bit larger size diameter wheel that would probably do a little bit better job for wood and plastics. And it's not quite as wide. I didn't purchase that because I'd already spent, 12 or 15 bucks on this, and it seemed to work okay. So this is the one we're going to use today to cut this out. Okay, so we got our battery. We're getting ready to start cutting it. First, we need to separate the battery from the actual controller here. So we'll just remove these screws. These screws here sometimes will have a little crud inside of them, and you have to clean that out. And it's a good idea to wash your batteries first, too, after you take them off the collars to remove mud and debris or whatever. So that's what the battery away from the controller looks like. Just separated. And you have to do that because it's easier to cut this out. I'm going to remove these screws all the way out, just so when I send this battery to have them fixed, I get my screws back. So what I do is I put these screws back in each controller. Where it come from, I'm going to keep these at the house, and as long as I have them and these screws is here, I know I got them when it comes back. So what I'm going to attempt to do, the batteries inside of this controller come to right along here. There's a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to attempt to cut this battery right along this edge here, all the way to here, across this side, and back down, and lift this portion up, off. So anyway, be sure before you start, you got some good safety glasses or even a mask. this wheel on this thing throws a lot of debris. So be sure you have a good pair of safety glasses. So you can see part of the batteries. That's why I'm going really slow. I don't want to cut into the batteries. So I'm going to just take my razor knife and go around the edge and see if I can lift this off. You see, we definitely don't want to cut too deep here. Here's your charging hookups here. And I can see I'm just on the edge of those. So I'm going to see if I can work this back and forth to get it to release. I think it's right here on the corner. And there's your batteries. That's what has to be replaced. So you can leave it close up. So I'm going to leave these batteries in here because these are connected by this wire to this motherboard somewhere. And I'm afraid if I lift these out too quickly that I may break a lead that interstate batteries may need. So I'll carry this to them. They'll take these batteries out. They'll replace it with a battery pack like this inside of here, these electrodes. I'll bring it back. I'm going to clean this edge up really good. I'll take my razor knife and clean all of this edge up around here. See how this is beveled? That's what you really want, a nice beveled edge. Now, this may not be perfect, and I'll admit that, but when I put a bead of silicone or polyurethane, I recommend polyurethane, around the edge of here, and I set this back inside, of course it's gonna mash out all around it. I'll clean that up and then put another bead around it, smooth it out, and let it set up, and we should be good to go. Hey, what's up everybody? We could continue this video here. I went and picked up the battery packs. I carried them over Monday. I got them back. They were actually ready yesterday at lunch. I didn't have the opportunity to go till today at lunch and pick them up. So this is what the new pack looks like right there. It's got the new batteries in it. This is a portion that we cut out. One thing I'll suggest that I did not do, when you go to pick these battery packs up, if you get whomever you get to make the new packs, carry you a receiver with you. This is the receiver, just so you can check these battery packs. See these little electrodes on the back here? Right there? They insert here. So it's beeping. So I'm going to glue these back on. I'm going to tilt the camera down and let you see that. And I'm going to put them back together. So, okay, so we've identified the tops that came off each battery here. So try to match these caps as close as you possibly can. And as you can see, there will be some gap around the edge. We're going to fill that in with this caulk. So we'll start with this first one. I went through all the batteries, hooked them actually up to a receiver, and they all seem to be doing well. So first of all, I want to lay the first bead of caulking, you can see this, around this perimeter edge. And this is going to be our seat. When you're putting this caulking around, there's no perfect way to do it. Hey, some of you guys out there may have an actual better method to make this seal. If you do, or if you come up with something different, hey, post it online. We'd all like to see it. So I'm just going to mash this down nice and snug, get all the air bubbles out. Looks like that's sealing up. I'm going to just try to take my finger and tool this polyurethane around the edge. I just want to smooth out what's there. It looks like here I've got a little bit of gap, so I'm going to add in, I'm keeping pressure on this cap, I'm going to add in a little caulk across the top of this. And if you get too much on this, you can always take your finger, have a rag available, a little water, and just clean it up. It really wants to stick to this glove really bad. I'm going to take this glove off. You get this polyurethane, you have to have some paint thinner to actually get it off your fingers. This polyurethane is flexible. It will shrink, it will expand. And so whatever you seal it with, be sure that you use an appropriate sealer. So this is not going to be beautiful, but hey, it's close. So while this sets up, I am going to wrap a piece of tape, hold everything closed. Now I'm going to leave this for a couple of days. Let me smooth that back up. And I'll let that set for a couple of days. And then I'll come back out and take the tape off of it, and then I'm going to check it for any air pockets, air bubbles, or places I think may need more caulk. So that's number one. I'm going to repeat the same process on the next two, and I'll have a picture for you after I get them all done. Okay, I wanted to show you one more thing. The new batteries for the controller. Remember we took this over here, 2 screws on the bottom, removes this. Interstate battery pack. On here it has the positive and the negative. On the bottom of your controller, tells you what size the positive goes on. It slips on, really easy change. Caps return. Tighten them up. Basically a brand new controller. I just put the controller into the charger. You see the red light on, so I'm going to give it a good charge. They charged me for these new battery packs about 15 bucks each to put these new battery packs in. Battery pack in the controller I think was about $25. That's not too bad compared to having a new system. So if you've got one of these old systems out here, hey, give it a try. It's not that hard. You really have nothing to lose. All these batteries, this is the one that I had, this is the first one that I did. These batteries, if they're dead, you've got nothing to lose. That's why we took a chance and tried to rebuild them to see if we could get some more life out of them. When you pay, $1,200 or $1,500 for a system, you hope it'll last as long as you possibly can make it last. So I hope this helped some of you guys out there in the field. If you have these old systems, give it a shot, and remember, it's a wild life.